Hey guys, welcome to Mara's Junk Drawer. I am Mara, and today we're going to be doing my August reading wrap up. So let's get into the video. I made no notes, so we're just going to be winging this, okay? And great, my iPad is dead. Ciao. Okay, let me see. Hold on, I'm gonna have to go because y'all, I do not, if you're new to my channel, I do not track my books on like Storygraph or Goodreads, anything like that. I do have a reading journal and I barely use it. So, but I did like I did put like all of the books that I read in August in my iPad, but I don't have it. So let me see how I can do this. I think I have it saved in my phone somewhere. Where is it? Ciao. Bingo. I think this is it. Okay. We good to go. Okay. Alright, so first we're going to start off with, hold on, let me see something. Okay, let's get it cracking. The first book we're going to start with is, y'all, if my energy is off, it's because I'm on my period and I'm bloated so bad right now, and like my stomach is on 10. So if I'm making like all these funny faces, it's because I'm thinking about the fact that my stomach is killing me. Okay, so the first book we're going to start with is Only Big Bum Matters Tomorrow by Demilare Cuckoo. So she's also the author of Nearly All the Men in Lagos Are Mad, which that was a book of short stories. So this book is centered around like BBL culture, and I feel like it was still in the format of short stories. Like that's how the format gave, because it was the perspective of like 4 generations. So it was the main character, Timu, or child, I can't remember how to pronounce her name. It was her mother, her mother's sister, her father's sister, and then I think they had the perspective of the lawyer. I think he was a lawyer. And so I did appreciate like the different generations, like their perspective, because I feel like that was needed. But it was weird how it was told in like different persons. So it pretty much follows the main character. She's fresh out of college and she wants to use the money that was allotted to her due to her father's passing to get a BBL, because she's got pancake booty and she just feels like, you know, in society today that she would receive the attention or the, you know, appreciation of being a woman if she has a BBL. She has a bigger booty, so it does navigate that, and I liked it. It was funny. It does take place in Nigeria as well, and then it does have like a lot, it does follow like commentary centered around like how, of course, the older generation is not going to be accepting of her getting a BBL, so it just navigates that. And it was just very interesting that, you know, she picked that to speak about. So yeah. So next we have Lovers and Friends by Olivia Linden, and this was book 3 of the R&B series, and this book just released on August 23rd, I think. And this story was clearly a lovers and friends. I do have a review posted on my Instagram. Baby, this book, she went completely different from the other 2 books. Like I'm proud of her for that, because it's a risk, you know, especially when your other 2 books are like completely different. And not that you want all your books to be the same, but this book, baby, Shane, Big Daddy Shane, he was nasty. Okay, he was nasty. He was a nasty boy. So if you want like nasty mess, friends to lovers, what was the other trope? Open relationship, because both of them, they have like these relationship stipulations where both of them are in a relationship, but because they've known each other for so long, it's like one of those type of situations where the dude be like, oh, that's just my sister, oh, that's just my friend, but you already know what it is, like definitely way more than that. So he is a NBA star, and I think her degree is in marketing, or what was her degree in? Let me just pull it back up. I do have notes on this one on my phone. So it's giving like sisterhood, found family, open relationship, grief because mommy issues. He's an NBA star, she's a publicist. It's a dual timeline, so it goes back to when, you know, when they like around the time that they met, like when they were in college and stuff. Friends with benefits, of course, and friends to lovers. And so Given a Chance is my favorite one out the series. This one, if you like a little bit of drama and romance and nasty, then this will be the one for you. So next we have Dry Cry by Joanna Kimber. And this is book 2. Oh, and for Olivia Linden's series, the R&B series, they can be read out of order. They are standalones. So Hideaway by Joanna Kimber. I read Dry Cry as an arc, as well as Lovers and Friends. So thank you, Joanna and Olivia, for allowing me to read your books as an arc. And so Dry Cry is book 2 of yeah, my arm hurts, of this series, and these are standalones as well, so you can read them out of order. Hideaway, if you want like a nasty vacation, boss daddy, they do go on vacation to Jamaica, then this is for you. With Dry Cry, hers is more of like a cozy slow burn. That's the best way I can describe it. Cozy slow burn. And Ione, hers was my favorite one just because it did have that like soft cozy vibe. It was giving what it needed to give for me. And hold on, y'all, I'm trying to see if I can find my notes because I don't want to say too much. But her and her love interest, hold on, y'all. Okay, yeah, so her and Rowan are both Virgos, so it is currently Virgo season, so go read the book to, you know, just get those vibes. So it is a slow burn. He is a shop owner, and she's still like discovering herself because she comes from like a father who has money. He's a lawyer. He wants her, of course, to take the path that he's on. Her mother abandoned her for a specific reason when she was younger, and so she grew up with these mommy issues, and she's just trying to find herself in her early 20s, and she ends up leaving her father's home due to a tragedy that I kind of wish that was like touched on a little bit later on in the book, because it was such a significant impact in her life that caused like a significant change. So that was just, I wish that was like, I kind of wanted to see her father's reaction, but I guess it really was not needed at the end of the day. That's just, I think, for people who like closure. But there is grief. He's a Jamaican man, she's a black woman, she's also a chef, and of course there's sisterhood because it does follow 4 different women. So, as well as Olivia Linden's R&B series. So if you like sisterhood, like girlfriend friendship, then you would love this series because each book follows a different girlfriend. So yeah, Dry Cry, they did not go on vacation. They did take a trip to New York. So it's like a found family, cozy, slow burn romance. And like I wouldn't say coming of age, but kind of, because she is maturing into the woman that she wants to be due to one, getting out of a toxic relationship with her father as well as her ex-boyfriend. Baby, you gotta grace yourself with Ione though, because the decisions that she make towards the end of the book, baby, it was giving like third act breakup type energy, like that, like piss you off like that. But yeah, I enjoyed it. That is my favorite book of the series so far. I think I maybe because she's a Virgo. Okay, you know, us Virgos, we like to stick together. Okay, next I read Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. So I only read this because curiosity killed my cat, and I wanted to read it before I read James by Percival Everett. Yeah, before I read James, it's right here. I don't know if you guys can see. Yeah, so but I did see a couple people say that you don't need to read Huckleberry Finn in order to read James. But the way my brain is set up, I just could not. Like, I need the backstory. I need to see why, the inspiration behind the story, even though reading Huckleberry Finn probably has nothing to do with James, even though James is the slave that is in the story Huckleberry Finn. So but they call him Jim in Huckleberry Finn. But I would say Huckleberry Finn, I don't have too much to say about it because there's so much I can say about it. Baby, I did find myself Googling if this man was racist, because it's just, but at the end of the day, this author was born into racism. He also was born to parents who owned slaves, and this was released in a time frame where they still called black people, you know, the N-word, not the ending with the A, but ending with the ER. So it's not necessarily that he's racist, but it's just like, reading it as a black person, it definitely makes you extremely uncomfortable, because just the way the wording, you know, how they speak, but that's how they spoke back then. Like, that was just the reality. But Huckleberry Finn and Jim the slave, they pretty much were like friends. So it was like Huckleberry Finn had like a soft spot for Jim, but I'm not going to say too much in case, you know, you guys want to read it for yourself, because that could give away some of the story. But yeah, I just needed to read that for my own curiosity before I read James. Next, we have One of Our Kind by Nicola Yoon. So I was just intrigued to read this book because I think I tagged her on here. I'm not sure. The Bookstagram who posted her review that made me want to read the book. I did enjoy the book. This is my first Nicola Yoon book, so I didn't know like her energy or what she was giving, but pretty much the book was not giving thriller for me. I know this book is, I think, supposed to be like kind of, to me it was giving kind of like psychological thriller, in the sense of around like the African diaspora, you know, like the black people here, you know, like the culture that we've had to create for ourselves. And so it's pretty much stemmed around that, and how we mentally and verbally abuse each other and judge each other, because the story follows child, what's the main character's name? I don't even know. I don't have my notes. Is her name Jacqueline? Her name is Jasmine. And what's her husband's name? I think her son's name is not her son. So I think the main character's name is Jasmine and her husband's name is King. So her husband King ends up getting a new job, so they're pretty much living in like the city, and they've, you know, had multiple conversations of needing to move to the suburbs, you know, a better area, just due to like the crime. And her husband's brother, you know, was a victim of the hands of a police officer. You already know how that goes and what happened. And so they've had multiple conversations of, you know, the husband pretty much telling Jasmine, the main character, his wife, like, we need to get out of here pretty much, because, you know, he has PTSD, and she, well, it doesn't state in the book that he has PTSD, but of course going through something like that, you're going to just, it just makes you uncomfortable. And so she's still comfortable and does not want to move, because she just feels like she's a very, like, deeply rooted in her blackness, and feels like she needs to be locked into her community at all times. And so her husband ends up getting a job promotion, and the guy that he works for, he is also, I think, co-owns this gated black community. I think not only the housing community is black, but I think like the establishments within this community. So it's like a black community. I think they call it Liberty, right outside of LA in California. I think the town is called Liberty. And then the guy that the husband works for owns this black community, like co-owns a black community with someone else. And so the wife ends up like, okay, let's just go move into this gated community. And then this is when like the thriller starts to happen, because, you know, and then like the main character, she judges like, oh, people's blackness based off their hair, their eye color, their skin color. So it's like that, which I'm sure is what makes people mad. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I also wrote some stuff on Instagram if you guys want to check it out. But the author had mentioned how she wrote the book out of like anger. I think I mentioned this in one of my previous videos, and how she just hopes to see change. And I feel like reading this book and the uncomfortableness that is felt while reading the book is what is needed to be able for us to move forward as a community together, in order for the author to see the hope that she desires. Because I mean, the book is straight facts. I mean, we do within the black community judge each other like that. Like, that's just what it is. So, I mean, the book wasn't giving thriller to me. The audio book was not giving thriller. You know how if a book is a thriller, if you read it yourself, it might not be as thrilling. But if you listen to the audio book, sometimes the audio book will intensify the thriller experience depending on how it's narrated. But the narrator for this book, she's just very chill, so nothing about it was thrilling to me. It just wasn't a thriller to me. It just felt like a fiction story centered around, it was giving Get Out, but it wasn't spooky. Like, it didn't give that. It just was more like I would say like a psychological fiction. Like, it just wasn't thrilling to me. I kind of already knew what was happening, like the twist at the end of the book, which it wasn't really a twist to me, but she kind of sets you up to like have an idea of what's going on in this community, which makes it a psychological thriller. J. Ellis, Did Everyone Have an Imaginary Friend or Just Me? Adventures in Boyhood. I absolutely love this. I will purchase this book for my son so that he can read it. I feel like if you have any man in your life needs to read this book, especially if he was born like in the 80s or grew up in the 90s. I think he would appreciate this book, because like I said on my Instagram, that book felt like 90s nostalgia, as well as being in a stinky growing boy's room. And it was just very interesting to read. He does state that it's not a memoir, but I mean, I guess you can label it as that. But it was very interesting to read about a black man with an imaginary friend. And I think he had his imaginary friend until he was in the 7th grade. So that was very interesting. And he was a problem child. Like, I would love to hear his parents' perspective of raising him, because it sounded like he stressed them TF out. Child, like, Next, we have The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I feel like I spoke about this book already, and I was just gifted this book in my birthday book haul. I'm looking at it right now, but I don't feel like getting it because it's underneath all these stacks of books because I had, okay, it doesn't even matter. But we have The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. So this follows, I felt like I already talked about this book in a previous video, or maybe because I love the book so much that I just keep running my mouth about it. But anyway, so it follows the main character in Florence, and she is a ghostwriter for an author, and nobody knows she's the ghostwriter for this author. And then there's a publisher that comes in. I don't know if he's considered a publisher or if he's like a manager of the author. I can't remember what his specific title is. So she meets him. His name is Benji. She meets him, and they have like this weird little like chemistry, you know, that little spark before, you know. So he ends up getting into a car accident, and the main character Florence, she is able to see and speak with dead people, and her parents own a funeral home, which I think is mainly ran by her father, and her father has the same gift as her as well, and her father ends up passing away. And so the manager, the guy that she was like slightly attracted to, you know, had that little spark, or she was like, you know, he's cute. The one that got in a car crash, his ghost ends up coming to find her, and of course she ends up falling in love with his ghost. And baby, the plot twist, me and Ashley, we're locked in. Okay, we are locked in. The 7-Year Slip and The Dead Romantics, baby, those two books, I need to like hop into magical realism more. I remember when Lydia had posted, what was it? What is her book called? Oh, here it is. A Love Song for Ricky Wilde. And she was saying like it was some magic. Girl, I was so turned off when she told me that it was giving like magical vibes, because at the time I had never read a magical realism book. And so I was like, child, I don't know if I want to read that book now. But then I got introduced to The 7-Year Slip, baby, and fell in love. So now I'm so excited to like find other authors who write magical realism. But I'm low-key scared because I feel like Ashley does it so well that I don't even know. What is that other author? Matt, I think his last name starts with an R. I did see some of his books in Barnes today. I think that the bookshop or something, the magical library, or I don't know, but they had like a whole display of him in Barnes, and I was like tempted to get one, but I'm kind of scared, because if you guys like magical realism, let me know what some of your favorite magical realism books are. Okay, next we have Neighbors and Other Stories by Diane Oliver. Did I ever purchase that book? Maybe I didn't. I need to purchase that book. So this is a book of short stories. And I feel like Tayari Jones, the one who wrote An American Marriage, I have not read. I think she has a book called Atlanta or something like that. I have not read any of her other books besides An American Marriage, and that book was so good. But I think she is the one. I feel like I don't know if she put this book together or not, but she does have a very thorough introduction in these short stories of how she discovered Diane Oliver, and you know, stating that they went to the same college, and she had no idea that Diane went, you know, to that college as well. And so I don't know if she's the one who like orchestrated this project for her or not, but Tayari Jones does have a foreword in the book, which it was beautiful. So anyways, these short stories are pretty much centered around Jim Crow era. So I feel like they were a lot to digest. I'm still trying to figure out. Okay, I would say that I like short stories, but there's something about them. I don't know if it's because so far the two short stories that I've read, which was The Neighbors and Other Stories by Diane Oliver and Nearly All the Men in Lagos Are Mad. Both of those, each Like these authors does do a great job with short stories. Like each story is so impactful and has so much depth that you feel like you're reading multiple books. So I feel like that could be a lot to digest in one time, reading so many different stories back to back. Like it was a lot for my brain to process at times, especially The Neighbors and Other Stories by Diane Oliver, because being that these are all centered in the Jim Crow era, I was so, my soul was so exhausted when I got done reading that book. I felt like I had to take a nap. That's what I said on Instagram. I feel like I need to take a nap because she is such a phenomenal writer, and for her to have only written these in her early 20s is wild. Like wild. Just imagine, she is up there with the legends, but just imagine if she was able to write more and like have novels. Like baby, she would be up there probably with the big dogs, because her writing is so beautiful and she did such an amazing job with these short stories that I don't even know what to say about them, because but they were heavy. Like, you know, there was a story around, like, you know, inspired like a Ruby Bridges story, you know, being in a whites only area, and like remember the scene in Lovecraft where they went into a diner where it was all white people? That's, she has a story in there like that. There was a story of like exchange students, black exchange students going over to, dang, where did they go? It wasn't Australia, was it? Child, they went somewhere in a white area as exchange students, and these people, was it London? And you know, it was that experience. There was just like black household, you know, like dynamics of the black household back then. It was heavy. I'm just reflecting on how I felt reading those stories. She did a phenomenal job, but they were just so heavy. But I do think it's a book that, especially if you're like into historical fiction, specifically black historical fiction, or you're into reading like slave narratives, even though this was not a slave narrative, but it was, oh, and there was a couple stories in there that were giving like thriller, like Get Out, because there were like unaliving people in the story of like these black people who lived in the woods, and they would get like paranoid when like white people would step on their property. And so yeah, it was a nice little range of stories, and yeah, she did a phenomenal job. But I would just say tread lightly when reading those stories, especially if you're not used to reading slave narratives or black history that's heavy like that, because it's going to tug on you a little bit. It's going to tug on you. It's going to tug on you. But that is all the books that I've read in the month of August. Let me know if you read any of these books and your thoughts on them. And if you made it this far, I thank you so much for coming back for another reading wrap up. If you're new here, welcome. Thank you for locking in with your girl. But if you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and let's be friends. Go ahead and leave me some love down in the comments, and be sure to like this video. And I will see you in my next.